Community Connection on KGNB, brought to you by Waters International Realty.
Paige Green here with your Community Connection on KGNB. We're here with Kellie Stallings from NB Housing Partners. Kellie, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
Of course. So can you tell me, what is NB Housing Partners?
NB Housing Partners is a local nonprofit organization that was formed to address housing insecurity, or the lack of adequate numbers of housing at all income levels, particularly the lower income level. So we began in 2013 after we had seen as a community that employers were starting to comment and have concerns on not having enough work space for their employees who were on the front lines. And therefore, we're having difficulty filling frontline positions because people could not afford to live here, and they could also not afford to travel here from other cities. So we started working in 2013 to look at how we could build the affordable housing capacity in the community. One of the first projects that we started with was working with the city to purchase a piece of land off of FM 725 to build more apartment community living for families who are within 200% of the poverty line. We ended up giving half of that land to the San Antonio Food Bank to build the New Braunfels Food Bank, who addresses food insecurity. And then in the last few years, the New Braunfels Food Bank has agreed to not only build but operate that housing community that I talked about for families. So they expect to break ground on that either the end of this year or early next year. In the meantime, we have seen that as our community has continued to grow and as the cost of housing has continued to rise here, that the problem that first resulted in our agency being formed is continuing to grow, and we are even more in a position of needing to add housing at the lower to lower medium income level. And so we know that we are working with other nonprofit agencies who are in the process of capital building projects who may be adding housing to their plans as they look toward the future about what our community needs. And then we have purchased a plot of land on Loop 337 and Churchill Road to build more housing at that site for single adults who may have income, but either because of the level of their income or because of poor credit history are struggling with being able to afford apartments or any kind of housing at market value. And so that project will initially start with some transitional housing. So those who just need a few months to be able to get on their feet and into market value housing. And then we'll eventually add more permanent housing to that site over the next few years. With that being said, we also have seen in the community over the last decade that this problem that I first started talking about is growing faster, just like our community is growing faster than our community can keep up with to be able to make sure that we have housing at each income level. And when that happens, nationwide, even internationally, we have seen that as housing costs rise, but that lower income housing cost does not maintain the same rate of growth, homelessness grows in the community. And so in the last decade, we have seen that not only has the number of people that are experiencing homelessness at least once grown, but also the number who've experienced homelessness for longer than 6 months is growing, which means that chronic homelessness is really taking off in our community. The only way to curb that is to work as a community to address it by having more housing available. But since that takes some time to build, we also knew that crisis housing for those who are experiencing homelessness is available. So 2 years ago, we started providing shelter for adults who are currently unhoused and are ready to commit to being housed once again and finding ways to be able to permanently solve their housing crisis. So we have been in temporary space in hotels over the last 2.5 years, and we are currently constructing a new site by renovating an old site on Loop 337, what used to be an old fire station. And so we expect that particular project to, the first phase of that project, to be completed by the end of this calendar year so that our participants can move over to that particular site. And it should house somewhere between 40 and 48 individuals at a time. This week, has been cold weather. And so whenever the temperature is 45 degrees or below, we also offer cold weather shelter. So this is more on a as needed basis to preserve life safety for those who are still unhoused, but have not yet committed to a longer term plan that requires change to be able to get permanently housed and to address any kind of factors that may be contributing to their homelessness. So that particular cold weather shelter started Sunday evening and will be open anytime the weather is at or below 45 degrees.
We've been predicted to have a cold and very wet winter through the Farmer's Almanac, and does that worry you with the homeless community? And I mean, I guess these cold weather shelters will be open maybe quite a bit this winter.
It might be. I think we were open, I want to say about 80 days last year. And so it is possible that because of that, we will be open more this particular winter season. And sometimes, even if the weather is 45 degrees or a little above, but it's also wet, then that adds to that inclement weather. And so we want to be available for individuals who need that at any time that they need that to preserve their health and their safety. One thing we know, whenever you hear the words chronic homelessness, people immediately get concerned about their own health, their own safety, their own property values. And what we know is homelessness is not an overnight problem or an overnight solution. And those who are experiencing homelessness, typically it's been a kind of a long, bumpy road to get to that place. They may have lost a loved one. They may have experienced divorce or even domestic violence. They may have experienced childhood trauma that continues to haunt them, or military trauma that continues to wreak havoc. They also may have ongoing mental health issues and may even be trying to address those mental health issues by substance use to be able to numb their own pain. And then a lot of times there are physical health issues. And then the longer they're on the streets, the more those health issues continue to grow and worsen. So our goal is to be able to assist someone as much as possible before they experience homelessness. And when they don't contact us until they are already experiencing homelessness, to be able to get them off the streets and on a path toward housing as quickly as possible. The longer someone is on the streets, the more they lose hope that housing is possible. And the more they can adjust to their circumstances and convince themselves that they are not valuable enough to be able to move toward housing, or even convince themselves that this is what they want. So to address those kind of concerns and to really make an impact with those who have experienced chronic homelessness, we have now, as of this summer, formed a team of a medical provider through Acacia Medical Mission, a behavioral health care provider through Hill Country MHDD, and our agency, who go out in a team of 3 to look in our community at places where people may be living unhoused, and to develop rapport, to offer health care services or behavioral health care services, and help them start to see that there is hope for not only health, but also for housing in their future.
Real quick, how can people help and be housing partners?
Well, as we are getting closer to moving into our more permanent site, we need lots of help with putting furniture and equipment together, assembling those items, and then also making sure that we have adequate supplies for our participants. So hoodies, beanies, gloves with this cold weather are helpful. Any kind of breakfast items that are donated at any time can assist our participants with making sure that they have healthy meals to eat. And then any volunteer help with assembling furniture and equipment would be wonderful.
That was Kellie Stallings with NB Housing Partners for your Community Connection. This is Paige Green on KGNB.